The alarm didn't go on this morning, and the reason is because there was nothing to set it for. First Monday after 40 years of work, and the silence in that bedroom hit different than any weekend ever did. That's retirement, right? Everyone talks about freedom. The golf, the travel, the sleeping in. Nobody really prepares you for that hollow feeling when the structure just disappears. You've been somebody for decades, a manager, a teacher, an engineer, whatever it was. And then one Friday they hand you a card, maybe a cake, and Monday morning you're staring at the ceiling wondering what you're supposed to do now. I went through that. Honestly, it took me longer than I'd like to admit to figure out what I actually wanted to do with all this time. And here's what I've acquired from living it and from digging into the research. Living long is only half the equation. The other half, the part that actually matters, is living well. Embracing solitude and honoring my years. And that's not some greeting card sentiment. There's real substance behind it. The first thing that changed everything for me was finding something that made me want to get out of bed. Purpose. Not a grand, life-altering mission, just something that pulled me forward. For some people, they've always known. They had that thing sitting in the back of their mind for years, waiting for the time to finally do it. For me, it wasn't like that at all. I had to go looking, and I stumbled around for a while. Before landing on making videos, I've actually been doing it a little bit my whole life. Staying active, getting on the bike. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. And the research backs this up in a way that's almost startling. Studies published through the NIH have consistently shown that older adults who maintain a strong sense of purpose have lower rates of cognitive decline, fewer cardiovascular events, and even, and this surprised me, better grip strength. Your body literally responds to having a reason to keep going. Now, that sense of purpose, for me at least, tied directly into something physical. And I want to talk about that because it's probably the thing I wish someone had sat me down and explained properly 10 years ago. Resistance training, lifting weights, whatever you want to call it. I know. Some of you are already thinking, that's not for me. But hear me out. After about 35, your body starts losing muscle mass. It's called sarcopenia, and it's not dramatic at first. You just notice the jar lid is harder to open. Getting up from a low chair takes a bit more effort. Carrying the shopping in from the car leaves you more winded than it used to. It creeps up on you. The CDC has been clear about this for years. Strength training, at least twice a week, significantly reduces the risk of falls, helps maintain bone density, and keeps your metabolism from completely stalling. You don't need to look like someone on the cover of a fitness magazine. You just need to challenge your muscles regularly enough that your body doesn't decide it can afford to let them go. And it doesn't matter where you do it. Home with a set of dumbbells, a community center, a proper gym. The location is irrelevant. What matters is consistency. 2-3 times a week, showing up and doing the work. Now, resistance training is one side of the physical coin. The other side is keeping your heart and lungs in good shape. Cardio. And this one's more forgiving in terms of what counts. Walking briskly through the park. Cycling, which is my thing. Swimming. Rowing. Even dancing, if that's what gets you moving. The point is, your cardiovascular system needs regular work to stay efficient. And as we age, that efficiency drops if we don't maintain it. But here's what nobody warns you about when you retire and start building this new active life. You can be the fittest person on the street and still feel completely hollow if you don't have people around you. Loneliness, and I'm not being dramatic here, is one of the biggest health risks for people over 60. The research from AARP and several NIH-funded studies puts chronic loneliness on par with smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of its impact on mortality. Think about that for a second. 15 cigarettes a day, and yet we barely talk about it because it doesn't feel like a medical problem. It feels like just a quiet Tuesday afternoon that turned into a quiet Wednesday, then Thursday, and suddenly you realize you haven't had a real conversation with anyone in 2 weeks. When you're working, relationships happen almost by accident. The colleague you have lunch with, the team meeting where you actually laugh about something, the after-work drink. Retirement strips all of that away, and unless you deliberately rebuild it, the social side of your life can dry up fast. So maintaining relationships with your family, your kids, your grandchildren, old colleagues, neighbors, becomes something you have to be intentional about. Joining a club, volunteering, even just committing to a weekly coffee with a friend. It sounds simple, and it is. But simple doesn't mean easy, especially if you're naturally someone who keeps to yourself. And speaking of things that sound simple, let's talk about food, nutrition. I know, you've heard it 1,000 times. Eat well. But there's a specific trap that I've seen people fall into after retirement, and I nearly fell into it myself. When you're busy, ironically, you sometimes eat better because there's a structure. Meal prep on Sunday, packed lunch for work, dinner at a reasonable hour. Take that structure away, and suddenly it's a microwave meal at 9 o'clock because you couldn't be bothered. The quality of what you eat directly affects how you feel, how you think, and how well your body repairs itself. And that last part becomes more and more relevant with every year. Your body is still rebuilding tissue, managing inflammation, fighting off illness. It needs proper fuel for that. Fresh vegetables, quality protein, healthy fats. Not perfection, just intention. Another thing that tends to slide when the structure of work disappears is sleep. And this one is sneaky, because you think, I've got nowhere to be tomorrow, so it doesn't matter when I go to bed. But it does matter. Sleep is when your body does its heaviest maintenance work. Tissue repair, memory consolidation, hormone regulation. The NIH has linked poor sleep quality in older adults to higher rates of cognitive decline, increased inflammation, and a weakened immune system. Good sleep hygiene isn't complicated. Keep the room cool, dark, consistent bedtime. Limit screens before bed. Cut the caffeine after midday. You've probably heard all of this. And the reason you keep hearing it is because it genuinely works. The hard part is actually doing it. Now, sleep connects directly to something else that can quietly wreck your later years if you let it. Stress. And you might think, I'm retired. What do I have to be stressed about? More than you'd expect, honestly. Financial worries, health concerns, family dynamics. The sheer existential weight of suddenly having to define yourself outside of work. Stress doesn't retire when you do, and chronic stress does real damage. It elevates cortisol, which over time can weaken your immune system, disrupt your sleep, see how it all connects, and increase your risk of heart disease. Finding ways to genuinely unwind isn't a luxury. It's maintenance. For some people, that's meditation or mindfulness. For others, it's a walk in the afternoon, gardening, fishing, painting. Anything where your mind goes quiet and you're fully in what you're doing. That state, where you're completely absorbed in the present moment, has been shown to reduce cortisol levels measurably. It's not fluffy self-help talk. It's physiology. There's another piece of this that people don't like to talk about because it makes them feel old. And that's safety. Not home security, physical safety. Being mindful of risk in a way you probably didn't need to be when you were 30. I'm a cyclist. I love it. But I'm not bombing down hills at 40 miles an hour anymore. The reflexes aren't what they were, and more importantly, the consequences are different now. A broken collarbone at 25? Painful, but you bounce back. A broken hip at 65? That can change the entire trajectory of your remaining years. It's the same with lifting something heavy, climbing a ladder, even navigating an icy pavement. You're not being weak by being cautious. You're being smart. Healing takes longer. Recovery is harder. One preventable accident can set you back months or even permanently. Just think before you do it. That extra 2 seconds of consideration is worth it every single time. And the last thing I want to leave you with is something that a lot of us are guilty of avoiding, and that's going to the doctor. Not when something's seriously wrong. We'll all go then. I mean the routine stuff, the checkups, the screenings, I've had this odd little twinge for a few weeks, but it's probably nothing visits. Go. Just go. Early detection of almost anything gives you dramatically better outcomes. And even if it turns out to be nothing, which it usually does, you've bought yourself peace of mind, and that's worth the trip alone. Medicare covers a wide range of preventive screenings that people simply don't use. Annual wellness visits, cancer screenings, cardiovascular assessments, they're there. Use them. You know, I think what strikes me most about all of this is how connected everything is. You find purpose, and that drives you to stay active. Staying active helps you sleep. Better sleep lowers your stress. Lower stress makes you more social. Better relationships give you more purpose. It's not a checklist. It's a wheel that keeps turning, and every part of it supports the others. None of this requires a complete overhaul of your life. You don't need to become a gym rat, or a nutrition expert, or a meditation guru. You just need to be a little bit intentional about the things that matter. A walk today. A phone call to a friend. One proper meal instead of something from the freezer. A good night's sleep. Small things, consistently done. That's what aging well actually looks like. Not some dramatic transformation, just the quiet, steady decision to keep showing up for yourself, day after day, even when nobody's watching. A quick note. Everything I've mentioned here is based on widely established guidance from organizations like the CDC, the NIH, and AARP. But I'm not a doctor, and nothing in this video replaces the advice of your own physician who knows your specific situation. If something I've talked about resonates, bring it up at your next appointment. That conversation is always worth having. And if you've got your own strategies for making the most of these years, something that's worked for you that I haven't mentioned, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. The best ideas I've come across have usually come from people who've figured it out through living it, not reading about it. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.